determined by the Supreme Court. No corruption there. It's not like there's been a history of corruption in the intelligence agencies or the police forces or the Supreme Courts in Brazil. Hey, if you're watching from Brazil right now, tell me, if you're walking down the street and there's a gang member on one side and there's a member of your government on the other, or a policeman, who do you trust? Which side of the street do you walk on? Trick question. Neither is good, but you probably take it with the gangbanger. Let's go through here. And something else, I really have a question before I bring this man on. I know a lot of Brazilians. Not one. And there's, like I said, with one exception, who was a liberal journalist, was a fan of Lula. They all love Bolsonaro to a degree that you don't see with a lot of politicians. So you can comment below. Maybe I get it. It could be an echo chamber. Let's go through this timeline here. This this Justice Moraes, 2019. Okay, this Supreme Court Chief, Justice, not him, but issued an order allowing the court to open their own investigations. Okay, so they gave themselves permission to run investigations. Okay, the first order was given to Moraes, and the first thing that Moraes did was order a magazine to retract an article accusing the Chief Justice of corruption. It's like, we're going to give ourselves the ability to investigate anybody. Okay, great. First order of business, we are going to order you to stop pointing out corruption. Think about that for a second. They're not even trying to hide it. What else has happened? This man, Moraes, has arrested or ordered the arrest of 8 businessmen for WhatsApp messages. He's jailed people without trial for social media posts. He's banned Telegram. He's tried to, and this is something else too, tried to, before X, tried to bully Rumble into removing accounts. Okay, Rumble, where you're likely watching right now, said you have to remove these accounts. And Rumble said, no, we're not going to do that. So if the consequences, Rumble is no longer available in Brazil until we sort this out, that's what we're going to do. Rumble is not in the business of removing accounts if they are not breaking the law. And that's important. That's important. I'm glad that we have people like Rumble there, and now we also have X. We also have video of Moraes admitting that he's a bad guy.
You're just giving up?
I'm the bad guy. I don't save the day. I don't fly off into the sunset. And I don't get the girl.
Moraes also so you have X, you have Rumble, you have going after a magazine when you're now basically in charge of a new court that, I don't know, handles elections that a lot of people think was corrupt, and if those people complained that it was corrupt, they were accused of rioting. I don't know if you see those parallels there. He has also personally ordered, I would say, witch hunt, political prosecution of our next guest, journalist Paulo Figueiredo. This man has had his passport revoked. He's had his bank accounts frozen. He's had his social media censored. All of this for simply having a point of view that is deemed unacceptable in Brazil. So please, let's welcome our new friend here. I hope we have him on the line. I know we're making this call internationally. Mr. Paulo Figueiredo. Mr. Figueiredo, can you see me, hear me, sir?
I can hear you and see you perfectly. If this call was international and I was in Brazil, I would be in jail. I'm in South Florida, so this is a domestic call.
Well, I apologize. I wanted it to seem more international because it makes us seem more cultured. But you still have an accent, so that's nice. It's not as severe as a lot of Brazilians. How did that happen?
I went to school here. I study here in several schools, and I've been here for 10 years. Otherwise, again, I would be in prison.
Yes, I can imagine. That seems to be the rule there in Brazil. A couple of questions before I ask you about some of these details. What does eso mean in Brazil? In jiu-jitsu, they would go, eso!
Means, yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay.
And it should come to train jiu-jitsu here in South Florida, and the Valente brothers here, they watch you, so
okay.
They should come here.
And then what is aye? They would say if someone gets it, they go aye. What does that mean?
That means, again, that's good. Yeah, all right.
Okay. And then what means you can't do that? That's chich porra.
Yeah, that's a bad word.
Is it a bad word?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, shit.
Hey, Midwest.
Don't do that shit.
Don't say shit on my show. Don't. They have children who watch, okay? Maybe in Brazil, carnival with butch and boob. It's okay. Not here. We don't do here. Okay. Porra.
Porra means something else.
Oh, okay.
The translation is shit, but the technical term would be sperm.
Okay.
Porra means.
Whoa! Wait, sperm? Like. Right, just never. Wait, sperm like to sperm somebody, or do you say sperm as in ejaculate?
No, the actual ejaculation fluid.
No.
That's what it was. But in Rio, where I'm from Rio, Brazil. That's where jiu-jitsu is and became popular. And porra is like we say porra like Americans say the F word after every sentence.
Oh.
So yeah.
That's not how we cuss. We don't say the F word after every sentence.
I've seen it before.
Okay. We talk about sperm. That was compliment means there's many of you, and only take one to get victory. So that's porra compliments to me. Let me go through this. What's your specific relationship with, well, before I do that, where's the best place for people to find you and support you right now? Since you're stateside, is it Rumble?
Yeah, I'm on Rumble.
What's he talking about?
Channel, my shows in Portuguese and Rumble, but the U.S. audience can follow me on
We're talking about the new.
This
is a journalist from. Well, he's from Brazil. He's in Florida now because
I'm on X, and most of my posts are in
he's had
English.
said a few things about the corruption there.
Still in Portuguese, although Rumble, as you probably said, is
Paulo Figueiredo.
not banned in Brazil. They decided to not comply to the rules, the crazy orders by Alexandre de Moraes, and so they closed.
What's
Rumble.
going on
and
here?
Locals, by the way, as well. Both are closed to Brazilian audience. If you're accessing using IP.
I wanted to ask you, how do you, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know that
Guy was
obviously
pulled
this
into
is
the middle of the road.
Of your business, how you make a living, but I would imagine that on moral grounds,
sorry.
you're supportive of them, rebelling against the Brazilian government. But what's your overall
Looking at
feeling
this
on that
traffic where there
Brazilian fans
should never be
watch you
traffic.
unless they maybe have a VPN?
Well, it hurt me tremendously, but I actually talked to them.
Let us
They
go?
were courteous enough to let me know what they were going to do, and I fully support it.
I don't know what the fuck they're
because,
doing.
like Elon Musk said, moral.
Guess we'll see when we get up there.
Are more important than profit, and.
Oh, you're not
that
gonna
was
let all the
craziest.
traffic go.
All
You're
this
just gonna let
started when
5 cars go.
I tweeted to Elon Musk saying, "Well, you're saying all these rules are illegal, so why comply?" Locals in Rumble did it, and that's when he said he was going to lift all the sanctions in Brazil. So I fully support it, although I think it's, of course, it hurts my business, right?
Yeah, I know, and I'm sorry to hear that. Hey, maybe there's a way that Mug Club and what you're doing, Mr. Figueiredo, can pair. We can put a poll out there. We probably could use some Brazilian Portuguese people coming on over, giving them access to more content. Let me ask you this: what is your specific relationship with Justice Moraes? Because he's at the center of a lot of this, and the more I was doing research, it kept coming back to the same person.
Well, he is the de facto dictator of Brazil. So
I know he's off his fucking rocker. We don't fucking say that. Fuck.
I was a journalist on the mainstream media. Okay, I was on prime time. I used to have sometimes more viewers than Fox News on prime time in the U.S. It's like I'm talking about millions of people watching every day on TV.
Parked on a road that
TV,
has no stop signs.
The show that I was on was considered the number one
a different way
in the country for a long time. So, and one day on December 30th, 2022, so after Lula's election, I woke up with the order.
Still gonna stop and get some iced tea.
Cancellation of my Brazilian passport, which was
Getting a haircut tomorrow. Shit's getting long.
The ban of all my social media in Brazil. You can access my social media if you're not in Brazil or if you're using a VPN not in Brazil. My YouTube channel had like 1 million people, over 1 million people there. My Twitter account, 1.4 million people, just to give you an idea, and all other platforms. And one day I woke with everything blocked, and plus all my assets in Brazil, all my assets and bank accounts were frozen. Plus he issued a fine every time I stated any fake news, which I believe I've never did in my life, but depends on what you think fake news are. So that's my relationship with him, and I have been like that for a year and a half now.
Well, and let me ask you this, because you said de facto dictator, Moraes. Now, he's a Supreme Court judge, so the president there, former criminal, until the Supreme Court said, we're not going to do that anymore. Lula, what's the relationship then between Moraes and Lula? It sounds to me like you're saying he might be in a greater position of control than the president.
Oh, he definitely is, and it's not me saying that, right? Elon Musk said that
whatever you want, bud.
Controls Lula, and it's interesting
the number.
because a few months ago, the Lula's party
Hell, I can
supported
mute
bill
the stream
in
now
the
if you
US,
want.
in
Shit.
Brazilian Senate, saying that giving some limitations to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court justices went nuts, and they started sending messages, WhatsApp messages, to journalists on mainstream media saying, "Look, we allow him to go back to power." So he was like, he can't turn against us.
This is just
We
my driving
defend
stream.
democracy. We guarantee he
Is
is
he
right.
back up?
So they brag about
In case
it.
I get
They
another
brag
copyright
about
or
the fact
something.
that they brought him to power. So
I live with one strike on my
if
main
you
channel.
look at the Twitter files, Brazil, which they were released last
Seems
week,
like as soon as I get it
it's
gone, it's like,
undeniable
oh, here we go.
that Demorais,
Oh,
people
YouTube found something from
censoring
last May. Oh,
conservatives
shit.
and therefore favoring Lula's election. Because, and even when I was on TV, I used to get orders from the court saying, you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't say that. Like, and this is unheard of.
Right.
I couldn't say
Jesus.
that Lula was unconvicted.
So you're only gonna let 5 go this time?
It was just us being smart asses in a sense.
Sure.
Fucking
because he was
woman
convicted,
figures.
And then he was not found not
What the fuck
to.
are they
He was
doing?
unconvicted.
We're
I
sealing
couldn't say
cracks.
He was an ally of Venezuelan
Jeez.
dictatorship. I couldn't say he was an ally of the Nicaragua dictator. So I
Fucking
couldn't
making
say
50
stuff
bucks
like
an
that
hour
on
to
the
stand in the
internet
road.
by court orders.
Wow.
And we saw that was happening in an even broader scale on all social media. Twitter was the one that we have access to the files, but it was happening on all social media.
Can I ask you something? Because you were on television for a very long time. That means you were obviously broadcasting when Bolsonaro was in office. And you've talked about these orders coming straight to you. Any of them ever come from Bolsonaro, the supposed fascist, saying you can't say that if you were critical of him or any of his colleagues ever?
No, I actually used to criticize Bolsonaro a lot. A lot of my viewers didn't like it, but I think it's part of my job. But I tried to be fair with him, which is unique in the mainstream media. Like here in the U.S., you can criticize Donald Trump, but you don't need to lie about it. And but the other journalists, I mean, the mainstream media in Brazil is not just as bad as in the U.S. It's way worse than in the U.S. So, and the amount of lies they spread against Bolsonaro is unbelievable, and most of them were proven fake news,
Right.
Like false,
Yes.
throughout the time. And
Oh
Bolsonaro
shit, they're
never
building
did
something over here.
anything. It's like to the point that some people
Wondering
said
when
he
that
deserved
field was going to
die,
turn into something.
just like we saw in the U.S. with Trump. The same thing in Brazil. We had mainstream newspapers with a column saying, "Well, I wish Bolsonaro was dead" and stuff like that. And nothing happened to no one.
Right.
And to
Nothing
be
happened to
fair,
no one.
and I have to be absolutely. I've been in this game for
All
a
right.
long time, and I've been
I'm gonna
in this
run
game
in.
before Bolsonaro.
You guys can
And
listen to
during
him.
the first,
It's gonna be
the
quick
first run
as
of
possible.
The Workers' Party, the Socialist
shit.
Party,
There's a
Lula
spot
and
here.
Dilma in power,
take it.
and I criticized them heavily without fear. And now, in Brazil, everyone is terrified. I mean, members of Congress,
dirty.
whatever is left on the press, even the more moderate leftist journalists, they're terrified of criticizing Demorais. Not Lula. We can criticize Lula. We cannot criticize Demorais or the Supreme Court. That's called an attack on the institutions, an attack on democracy, and spreading misinformation. And therefore, although there's nothing on the Brazilian law against that, they can throw you in prison, and they have.
Yeah. Well, it's really scary. I mean, in South America, sort of, coups happen all the time. It's just kind of pick a country and pick a span of 5 years. It doesn't matter if you're going to go Colombia this year, you're going to go Chile, you're going to go Bolsonaro, you're going to go Brazil, or is what they would try and say. I know you guys had one in the 1960s, I believe, and I know there were sort of semi-coups since then. That happens quite a bit. And Brazil is an interesting place because it seemed like it was going one direction. And like I said, I know a lot of Brazilians. Every single one of them was a very big Bolsonaro supporter. I knew one who wasn't, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, you may know him, was a journalist. And I would be curious to see his thoughts now because I asked him about Lula. I didn't ask him about Moraes. Let me ask you this, how does one, because there are 11 justices, right? If I'm not mistaken, there on your Supreme Court in Brazil? There are 11.
Correct.
How does one person, one single justice, I mean, this is the reason that your passport was revoked. This is the reason that your bank accounts were frozen, that your social media, that you were deplatformed. This is the person involved with the Twitter files, right? It all goes back to Moraes. How does one, going after that magazine, How does one justice, when there are 11, have that kind of unilateral power to get accounts removed and entire platforms?
Well, he has a lot of support. And just so you know, it's very rare to see a jiu-jitsu practitioner that's leftist. That's very rare.
It's very rare. Yes.
It's very rare.
But you know why? Because they're individuals.
I know it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They live in personal strength and solving things, and it's very interesting.
All right, let's get the flock out. Fuck. Traffic must be bad today. What the fuck happened? Oh, and the message came through? All right, we're gonna switch it over to locals anyway. Oh, there's a line at the light. All right, definitely going to do a desktop stream today. We got to get caught up in a couple things. Still about 45 minutes away from the office.
We've been docking Iranian warships in the Brazilian ports. He's pro Venezuela. He's pro the drug cartels in South America. He's undermining the dollars on the BRICS. He's trying to make the yuan the international currency for trades. Like, why do the Biden administration support that? It's almost like they hate America.
Yes. It's almost like it's the same party of people who supported Chavez. Yeah, it's almost like it defies reason. Yeah, Nick, you have a question.
And he said, if I'm following this right, Lula is sort of he's sort of behind the scenes controlling the right.
Mariah is the one behind the scenes. He's a Supreme Court justice.
Okay. It was sort of the same dynamic, I thought, as Biden being controlled by it.
Yeah, but
no. So Lula and his allies, they appointed. So Moraes was appointed by the vice president of Dilma Rousseff, which was the successor of Lula's party. The vice president, Dilma, was impeached for defrauding public accounts, so she was impeached. And then this guy, Temer, which was more of a centrist guy, he took office, and then he appointed Moraes. So if you take up out of 11, 9 were appointed by the left.
Right.
In Brazil. Wow. So that's why they can do whatever they want. But they have a lot of support. They have support from the globalist movement.
He said it wrong. Yeah.
It's in English is same with an H.
Yeah.
Like Poha.
I'm from Boston. I'm from Boston. I couldn't get that word right in my Indian.
No, that's right. You're from South. It's okay. Later we
like
hold.
a Kennedy.
We're gonna hold together with the brothers Balench. So it's just it is rare, by the way, like you said with jiu-jitsu guys. That's kind of the community. I think that's why we have a significant viewership in Brazil. We're going to start translating some of our content to Portuguese because obviously appearing on Joe Rogan and being involved to some degree in the mixed martial arts community. It's a very strong sort of rugged individualist community, and I see a real populist groundswell, or have been for a while there with Bolsonaro. And it was very surprising to me to see this shift, and it just made me very aware that it seems like it's a shift in spite of public sentiment, not as a byproduct of it. And I see a lot of the similarities, with what they've done. They just accuse Bolsonaro, people on the right, of being exactly what they are. They accuse him of being a fascist while they silence journalists and try and get people removed. They accuse him of not being willing to relinquish power while they effectively appoint a shadow government, right? That's what they've done here in the United States. They've said Donald Trump is a fascist. Fascists don't typically lower your taxes and give you more access to firearms if you're a law-abiding citizen. But
or arrest your political opponents.
Right. Well, exactly. That's what we see.
Mariah's guy is a black belt in corruption is what he's got.
That's exactly what he is. A lot of similarities. And yeah, I think a big reason that they would all hate America is because the idea of America would be the safeguards, checks, and balances to act as a stand against corruption. And of course, they want to destroy those checks and balances while demanding that people recognize and respect the institutions that they falsely prop up. Education, they want to pack the court. Let me ask you this, because I want to continue on Mug Club, which is, of course, powered by locals. You know what? Let's do that. You guys follow on X, Real P Figueiredo. You can go and follow him. What's your URL for locals and Rumble, and we'll continue this on Mug Club.
It's pfigueiredo.locals.com, and Paulo Figueiredo, my name, is on my channel on Rumble. And people can support me on Locals if they think it's worth as well.
Absolutely.
Locals is still honoring everything. We're still sending all the support. It's just that Brazilians can't access through the website. They can still do it through the app.
Yeah.
So I'm still there. I'm still posting on Locals.
I know, but you know what? Look, I appreciate you taking the risk, because I know that you take a hit and standing there saying, yeah, but morally, this is something that we have to do. We've got to be taking a stand now. Rumble could have just removed you and a few Brazilian creators, right? They had that option. Either way, you're kind of up shit creek. I'm sorry, but they decided to say, no, we're not going to comply, and hopefully we see more people emboldened, like we see with Elon Musk and X. Stay right there, Mr. Figueiredo. Also, if you search Paulo, I knew a Paula, but very common name. There's Paulo and Paula. I get it. I know so many Silvas, and I know so many Paulos or Paulas. It's like John over there. We'll make sure your URL's in the description. Let's continue with Mr. Figueiredo on Mug Club. If you're watching on Rumble, you can click, join right there, continue watching. And YouTube, I don't know if we're still there today. Probably shouldn't be. Piss off. Yes, so gonna be here with Paulo Figueiredo. He's not Silva, but his name is okay. It's okay. It's not me give his name. It's given to this man by God. Do you do jiu-jitsu there, Mr. Figueiredo?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
I've been doing civil since I was a kid, and I started going again on the Valente Brothers here. These guys are amazing. You really should come here. It's what they have here. It's like a huge building, beautiful, man. Like,
yeah.
It's state of the art. Everyone that comes here gets impressed.
Well, you know what's funny though, when people talk about this, a lot of people don't realize, because we hear Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but there's still more practitioners of judo in Brazil because it's an Olympic sport.
True.
And you guys dominate in that sport. It's one of the best countries in the world. So it's just interesting, the sports that people sometimes think, oh, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. No, there are tons of people who do judo over there. And why do you think it is? Okay, here's what I was going to ask you. Okay, the one guy who I know who's somewhat Lula. Do you know Damian Maia?
Sure, yeah. Damian trains here at Valente Brothers.
He was the one guy who, and I don't know him super well, like personally. He's the only guy who I knew who was like,
no, come on. So I actually trained with Damian like a month ago.
Okay.
In a private class, me, him, and Pedro Valente.
Tire parts.
He's a great guy. I love Damian.
Somebody lost that retread.
I had heard nothing but good things, but he was the one guy who gave an interview, and it was the only person who I'd heard saying like, oh, you know, it's a good, we need this change, and I thought, that's surprising.
I'm as surprised as you were.
Maybe I misinterpreted it because I do speak Portuguese, but Portuguese. I just don't speak Brazilian Portuguese, so don't even try. Let me ask you this. No, but he's a really, really nice guy. A journalist. He went to journalism. I don't know to what extent he's done it. But I wanted to ask, how did you get stateside? If your passport were you already stateside, so you couldn't go back?
Oh yeah. I have, and this is another problem. I was always under U.S. jurisdiction, protected by the First Amendment theoretically, so not under demoralized, because I have this studio in my house. So I've been doing everything remotely from the U.S. I've been living here for 10 years. Both of my daughters are American. I've been here for a long time. This is, but I have very deep roots in Brazil. My grandfather was the president of Brazil from 1979 to 1985. So his grandfather was a congressman, and these all generals. So I'm very connected to Brazil. I still have business there, although I can't access my business anymore.
Right.
But it's still, I'm very, and I used to go to Brazil all the time. I used to spend months in Brazil. But I was here in the U.S., and when I saw things was in danger, I decided not to go back. But I know for a fact from a source in the Brazilian Federal Police that the moment I step in Brazil, I'm detained.
Yeah.
There's no arrest warrant against me, but there's an order on the federal police system that if I step in Brazil, I'll be immediately detained.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I've heard that might be the case with me in Canada, but I don't know if it's true or not. But he is Fidel Castro's son.
Yes.
Another
Canada's
question.
in very bad shape.
Yeah, it really is. I have another question. Are all women in Brazil gorgeous?
No, just 9 out of 10.
Is that okay? So 1 out of 10 is still an uggo. Okay, just wanted to make sure.
The old ones are not gorgeous.
Oh, that's ageist. Come on.
After 85, they're
Yes, after 85, they're discarded. So, do you think? Here's the thing: the United States has some checks and balances are being eroded. Brazil doesn't have the same history, the same constitution that we have here in the United States, like you talked about, being protected by the First Amendment. Do you think there is a coming back from this with Brazil, or do you think that right now they're accelerating so rapidly that it may be hard to correct it?
I'm actually concerned with the U.S. as well, because I keep saying that we have the same virus, we just have different immune systems. And the virus come from the Wuhan lab, which in the United States, like Harvard Law School, is the Wuhan lab where they create the crazy ideas and then spread throughout the world. And the idea that's dominating Brazil is the same as in the U.S. Like everything that Demorize is doing that we saw in the Twitter files.
JC, howdy.
Now in Brazil is being done by the
Sorry, a lot of traffic.
But in the U.S. was being done as well by the deep state.
Sure.
So in Brazil, the Demorize would issue an order saying you should shadow ban this hashtag because it's not interest to us. In the U.S., you had FBI agents asking that politely to the social media people, and they would gladly comply because most of them are leftists as well, and they follow the same ideology. So it's the same thing. It's just different means. Right. So Brazil has another virus that was also created in the U.S., which is called juristocracy. And that's very interesting because theoretically we live in a democracy, which is ruled by the people, right? People elect representatives and they make the decisions. But that's very complicated. It's tedious. There are checks and balances. And let's say you want to, pass a law legalizing drugs, okay? So you have two ways. In the traditional democracy, you just have to elect members of Congress or the Senate. You need a majority, and you have the president. He needs to approve, and then you have the Supreme Court that oversees all that and decides if it's legal or not. Right, the judicial review power. In a juristocracy, you don't have any of that. So the Supreme Court of Brazil is currently deciding if drugs are legal or not. Although the law says it's illegal, they're saying, yeah, no, this law is not valid. So, and they do that with anything. They're legalizing. Well, abortion was legalized in the U.S. by a court, right? So, and this is very powerful. So after the 2010s, when the national populist movement started, and you had Trump, you had Brexit, you had in Brazil Bolsonaro, we had Orban, you had this national populist movement around the world. The elites, they realized it was going to be hard for them to win elections. It was becoming tough, but they didn't need to. If they control the judiciary system, They could do anything they want. And that's why George Soros in the U.S. is focusing more and more money to elect prosecutors and judges than to candidates.
Yep.
And it's fantastic because they all meet in Davos on the World Economic Forum and these beautiful people meet.
Lucky laptop.
Align their ideas, and that's why it's so similar. And if you control a bunch of people just to live whatever you want, there are no checks and balances. Think you're too far away. If you had 5 justices on the U.S. Supreme Court, you would be having exactly the same problem. Exactly the same problem. And you're having the same problem where in cities where the judiciary system is dominated by the left. Right. Well, we're all watching what's happening in California. We're all watching what's happening in New York, and so and so. So I am concerned with Brazil. Answering your question, I do think there's a comeback for this. I think the first step is for people to be aware of the dictatorship that's ongoing in Brazil. Most people don't. The international community doesn't. I think if Trump gets elected, same way that Biden put his finger on the scale to Lula, so Lula could win, I think Trump could put his finger on the scale, not for Bolsonaro to win, which is not my concern, but to reestablish the individual human rights in Brazil. I think he can help on that. He can exert a lot of influence because, as I said, Moraes is a very brave man. He has balls. I'll give him that.
Right.
He went further than anyone ever did. But he has support. And the movement, and one of these strong supporters is Joe Biden and the U.S. government. The moment he loses that support, it's going to be easier for the institutions in Brazil, whatever's left of them, to get rid of him. And he's going too far. He pushed. It's like
that was going to be my question. Is people use the term populist, and I'm a conservative, but now that sort of is seen as populist because it's become sort of a rebellion. My question was going to be culturally. The United States, the checks and balances as far as the American population, there is, even though a lot of people aren't aware, certainly the conservative side, the most valuable resources and weapons we have is awareness, and that being matched with people having a pretty firm recognition of our constitutional rights, human rights. These are birthrights. They're not rights granted by government.
Going to the hockey game Saturday.
Are certainly involved.
Not sure if the wife's going with me or not. I think she's on call.
In Canada, people know. In Canada, where I was raised, people would willingly give up their rights. The parliamentary system is. I mean, you can have someone win with 20-something% of the vote. My question is, do the people of Brazil, do they have that? That's a part of American patriotism. Do you think that it can come from the ground up, from the people of Brazil, an understanding of what their government should be, how it needs to be framed, and their rights? Because abroad, I've not seen that in any other country.
Well, it's very well put, not in the same intensity as in the U.S., but if you think about it, most of these values that Americans have, they're rooted on the Christian beliefs, right? That men are created equal, and we hold similarities with our creators, and therefore we have inalienable rights. And that's in Brazil. There's a big Christian revival movement ongoing. And that's changing the way the Brazilian society.
I'm gonna mute for a second, guys.
So that's a big
Yeah, I was
in Brazil.
I was muted up. Apologies. I had to make a personal phone call.
For saying that everything was fine and all that.
But
The
we
New York
back.
Times is doing and he was a correspondent for the New York Times. Right. So the New York Times is doing the exact same thing in Brazil. It's going all about Durante as well, saying things are fine in Brazil, nothing to look here, nothing to see here. And my point being, I think right now with all the awareness that's going, things are going to start to become harder for Morales. And the establishment will get rid of him to do things more normal.
Right.
And maybe Brazil will go back to normal. Normal Brazil is not the best, but it's way better than what we have.
No, I understand. I think there could be an exchange. We'll exchange some of our culture to Brazil, and we grant immediate asylum to any Brazilian woman under the age of 85 who wants to come here to this country, because those people will be the backbone of America. All right, Mr. Real P. Figueiredo on X. I know people here are watching and locals, just go over and support him. I appreciate you taking the time, brother, and hopefully we can get you in studio, and there are probably some areas where we can team up here in the future.
I would love to. I just can see by my background, got a lot of inspiration from you, right? It's like just take colors.
Hey, I appreciate it. Well, and you did it right, because you must have gotten an LED sign. Because we had people who copied our set and didn't tell us, but they got an actual neon sign. And I won't say who it was, but they called us saying, "How do you get your sign to not strobe?" Like, you dumbass, did you get a real neon sign? You can't put that on camera. So,
No.
it looks...
And you should come train here, Jiu-Jitsu in South Florida. I'm looking forward.
I would love to. I can't for 2 years. I still have the titanium rods in my chest. Yeah, I take them out now.
Over there you can. Over there, trust me. Over there you can.
Well, my doctors made me sign a waiver that if they get bent, that they're not going to fix it. But I do want to come out there and see you guys. Mr. Figueiredo, we must go. I appreciate it, brother. Be well.
You as well.
All right. Hey, Josh is still here.
Yeah,
Look at this.
I'm here, baby.
You're here with your baby face.
Considering jiu-jitsu.
Are you?
No.
No. We used to do it. My garage was wall-to-wall mats. We'll probably get this started up again here in the studio. It's a life-changing thing. Once you get past it, it's fun. But I know that you don't like being touched.
I hate being touched.
So did I, though. I used to have a thing if someone touched my face at all, and I had to get past it.
I forgot.
Yes.
And don't touch me like that.
Waterbird, baby. Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
We see.
What?
That was the longest dump I've ever taken.
I don't know if.
Oh God! Really? He didn't survive it?
All right. What's that Muppet on TV? That's so distracting. That's not.
And they just like what? Frankenstein somebody else into him?
Yes. Okay.
You know what that is? Yeah, you're
With his
right.
exact same voice and everything?
It's like
She's gonna yell at the theater.
did they change
I mean, I know by the end there, he was pretty much Frankenstein from all the cosmetic surgery, but
That's a photo negative.
Those are twin brothers separated at birth.
They should team up for Celebrity Jeopardy to get the lowest score ever again.
look at this.
1982.
I know.
That is nice.
You don't age when you're.
Well, he's the devil. He doesn't blink. Have you noticed? I've never seen him blink or smile. That's what happens when you're German. That's what you can.
You don't see a lot of those up north anymore, because if they're from up here, they get all cancered out from salt,
It's absolute must.
unless they're garaged all the time, all winter.
Let's grab a couple of chats here, and on the way out, we appreciate it. We'll check in with you.
That guy was.
You buy them, you buy them down south.
Articulate guy, and good looking chap. But that's part of the course.
Is he not a jiu-jitsu guy too?
Yeah, I know.
Is that mandated in Brazil? What the fuck?
Well, it is for, I guess, a real man like him with a backbone, but I'm sure he's probably pretty good.
You gotta kick your ass and steal your wife. You know?
Yes.
Try it, motherfucker.
He would. He's Brazilian and he's.
You can take your black belts. I got a gun, okay?
Well, yes.
I might as well have yellow suspenders on.
If you commit a felony, that's outside the rules. Let's grab a chat.
All right, from TX Sheepdog 73, question for the crew, including Gerald.
Oh,
You guys
Texas
mentioned
Sheepdog.
this earlier. Are there measures Trump could take, if elected, to literally reset our government to something that is more aligned with the ideals of the Constitution?
God, these questions that make me depressed.
It's pretty much your question to Alex
I
Jones.
know.
I wonder if that's the same person that we
There are
know.
things you can do. I mean, there's only so much that can be done by executive order. You can have a big impact with the courts, especially since we're kind of on that theme today. He did that with the Supreme Court in the past, but also is looking at state courts. So that's kind of probably where he can be most effective. What I'm thinking, he really needs to wield as a mandate of the masses. If he wins in a landslide, he has got to go those first 2 years. Because it doesn't matter what you do, how good of a job you do. After about 2 years, even if it's just pure bliss, people start turning on you because they either turn on you because you've done a bad job, or they turn on you because they become ungrateful. It happens to almost every president. And then once your term is up, they go, oh, remember when? So I would just say he really needs to use the mandate of the masses and then also focus on the courts.
Can he clean out, like I asked, Alex, can he?
Yes, the three-letter agencies.
Can he clean those agencies out and replace them with, don't we have to train people?
He could clear it out, but he needs to make sure that the head is cut off the beast. In other words, some other form of the IRS or FBI gets created. So he would need to clear it out and make sure that he installs some safeguards so that they can't become as invasive. And that's a process.
I'm sick of hearing about, well, but the rank and file are good people. Yeah, well, I don't see him speaking up enough.
No, most of them are not. Yeah, the guys with pencils are not. I'm sorry.
Oh, Pepsi? Yeah.
And if, look, at a certain point, there aren't 10 good men. So you are
PepsiCo
now a
is
pillar of salt. CIA.
Black Rock of beverages.
Personally, I'd like to see him not care so much about what the media says about him.
Yeah.
You're not gonna.
I'm sorry, I'm a Coke man anyway.
You're not coming up. You're not running for anything.
You too dirty. We'll be doing a desktop stream, so if you get time, pop in.
And we'll remember you for what you did, and we'll appreciate you in the future. If they don't appreciate you right now, don't worry about it. You know what you're doing. Mission focused. Laser focused.
It really is kind of a perfect confluence. That's the thing about it. And I'm not someone who's into hero worship.
What are they putting an extra parking lot in the back?
Had a term, so we don't have to worry about him, trying to pander for a second term.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's had everything thrown at him as far as these charges, bogus, made-up crimes.
They use it too, by the way. It's a nonstop. I mean, it's
Arizona team. I don't like any of the fake sugars, so I'm not a.
He's gonna react to what they say, then they're gonna react to him.
I'm not a diet of anything.
Storm where he doesn't care. He just tucks his head down and just bulldoze.
And in fact, I try to as often as possible if I do get a sweetened beverage to get real sugar.
Don't be on Truth Social every day tweeting. Wolf Blitzer's got a.
They say most of those sugar, unless you're diabetic. I mean, most of those sugar alternatives are actually worse for you.
The Biden administration already said they have a plan.
Than anything.
It was in the Atlantic or something. The whole plan, what they're going to do if he wins legally,
right,
to stop him.
The thing is, no one knows about the plan because it was released in the.
Yeah, honey. Oh yeah, the green tea. I kind of like that. I don't know if.
No one will read our plan. It's okay. It's good with blueprint.
Yeah, honey that's sugar. So.
It's I think it could be the perfect storm with Donald Trump right here.
I love cane sugar.
Okay. Not only is it a second term.
Like I said, if I'm going to add any sweetener, that's what it's going to be.
And they rejected it, right? 8 years of Obama.
That's right.
You have really 3 years of Donald Trump. Now you have 4 years of Biden. Donald Trump.
I can't. I mean, I literally can taste.
They have gone
fake
so
sugar.
far beyond the pale that there's really very little he could do.
So looks like it's going to be a Taco Bell, but it's probably going to be another dispo.
Investigating or prosecuting Joe Biden. This would be one of those opportunities where someone would be justified in taking some.
Which is weird because there's a Taco Bell attached to the gas station just down the road. So.
In pursuit of preserving liberty. And again, like I
this
said,
speedway is like an ancient speedway too.
Not if he's protecting your gun rights.
Most of the newer ones are a lot bigger.
And he's not trying to remove anyone from social media, but force these platforms to play by their own rules. That doesn't sound like a fascist to me. Take extreme measures at that point in time. I think he might. Let's go to the chat.
From Gerald Morgan Jr. Miss you guys, but what the fudge is behind Josh?
Hey, that's someone we don't want. We don't want anyone pretending. That's identity.
No, I think Gerald is actually Gerald.
Yeah, that's Gerald.
The Chad.
Yeah.
It actually is Gerald in the chat?
Yeah. This is my new pal, Gerald.
Look at that, it's verified.
I didn't know he was a junior. I thought this was his kid.
No,
This is my new pal. He gave me a raise, Gerald.
Yeah, Gerald, well, I tell you, he's not getting a raise. Gerald, he has time to chat, but not come into the office.
Any hole will do.
He's changing a diaper right now.
Yeah, probably.
We miss you.
Or breastfeeding,
Yeah, we miss him. Well, we are with child now, so we're pregnant.
Yeah, we.
Don't like it. Final check. Love you, Jerry.
Let's see what this is. S. Wilcox 2013 says, how do you deal with the White House lying about the economy when they control what is published? When you search things like real wages, it shows better. It's better now than under Trump, even though we all know this isn't true.
Well, what you do is you actually just dive a little bit deeper. That's what we try to do on this show. But also, here's a little bit of context. When we're talking about inflation, you're not necessarily including the CPI as far as, I believe it was, including energy and housing. There are different ways to sort of massage it. And this is why I always say, that context is important and having a direct apples to apples comparison. Where you say, okay, what is inflation if we use the exact same metrics as we did with Jimmy Carter, as we did with Ronald Reagan, with previous presidents? Oh, it's in the double digits, right? It's the same thing with wages. Hold on a second. People aren't taking into account inflation, right? Which is basically, it's an invisible tax. No, you look at the average wages, how they've gone up, on how they went up under Donald Trump. I believe the number was $1,200 to $1,400 under 8 years of Obama, about $5,000, somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000 in the first 3 years of Donald Trump. And Biden has been negative as far as your purchasing power, over $4,000. So they'll just put it out there, but they'll also say that Easter is Trans Visibility Day, so you can't believe a damn word they say.
And they take into account you're not going to have time, work, family, and a life. Don't have time to dig deeper.
Exactly.
They're going to feed on those tidbits they throw out there.
Yep, they're counting on the people who don't spend time digging a little deeper as well. Just low information voters. Well, I guess it's good enough for me. They don't tell you how many people are working 2 or 3 jobs more than ever. They don't tell you that your purchasing power is lower. They don't give you the full picture. And this is where, look, context above content is often very important. Anytime, and we do this in the show, anytime we say a joke or something happens in the sketch that's a little bit off color, we have a rule. People need to be able to go 30 seconds in either direction and get it. No one goes 30 seconds
Hey, Michael.
in either direction and says, wow, I'm more offended. They go, oh, I understand that.
I'm about to end this stream in about 4 minutes, and then I'm going to, I'll start up a desktop stream on the main account
If that were not the case,
from work.
you wouldn't have the media saying, well, okay, these numbers look great.
Bunch of interviews
but,
scheduled
Biden's
today.
Really, he needs to figure out his struggle with the economy.
See how many
Which
show
is,
up.
Look at numbers, or are people rejecting him? People don't reject him just because they don't like him. They're certainly not rejecting him because of negative media coverage, and even they are acknowledging. So everyone knows that there's a lived reality and there's propaganda. And it just requires a little bit more context. That's why we try to make the resources available to you every show that we do. And I wish more people did that. Final chat, you gotta go.
From Dickens Coffee, question for the crew. Does this corrupt government agent remind you of when Obama said we've got to have a civilian national security force just as powerful and well-funded as they appear to be weaponizing agencies against civilians?
Well, let me read this again.
Yeah, that's
Question for the crew. Does it remind you of when Obama said we've got to have a civilian national security force just as powerful and well-funded as a... Well, see, here's the thing. The problem there is well-funded when Barack Obama said that, because then you go, whoa, hold on a second. This is a socialist. Well-funded means, what he really means is some kind of kickbacks from the government, because civilian force of some kind. What, would you mean a militia?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I understand that, but you've prosecuted people who actually create independent militias, or people who actually just go and create homesteads, right? Every single one of them is seen as a cult. Now, I'm not talking about Jonestown or anything like that. The left hates rugged individualism. So anytime they try and, just like when the left, here's how you know they're full of shit. You know the left does not support an actual militia. Why? They don't support your right to bear arms, period. And who makes up the militia? Look back at every single quote, whether it's Madison, whether it's Jefferson. Mason, I believe, said, why? Who makes up the militia? It is the entire people, of course. Like, it was an end of sentence, emphatic period. That's it. It's everybody is a militia. So you know the left doesn't actually want everybody to own firearms. Why? Because of the Heller versus DC ruling. The dissenting viewpoints in that Supreme Court case, they weren't. You shouldn't be able to have a high-capacity magazine. The dissenting views in that Supreme Court case from the leftist judges, they were saying individuals have no right to own firearms whatsoever, private citizens. So they don't believe that. It's the same thing whenever the left comes out and says, "Hey, freedom of choice." You know it's bullshit, because all they want to do is eliminate choice. They come out and say First Amendment, the right to speak freely. You know it's complete horseshit, because you never actually support the right to speak freely. Anytime they try and pull out one of those...
All right, guys.
that
Did you
actually matters
follow
to
the
the
Crowder
culture,
versus
and
Jared?
they try and just right away, you know what they're
Yeah.
telling is a lie.
Yeah.
And this is why I always say ideology...
Jared's just
Yes, you take
spurned.
individual
He's an idiot. He shouldn't have signed that NDA.
basis. I understand that.
He probably took
But
money
you
to sign it
understand
and then
the
spent the
worldview
money.
ideology that these people have.
So now he's
To
getting sued because he's
understand the
breaking his
motivation
NDA
for
by
it.
talking
But
shit.
if you just say, I take everything on an issue-by-issue basis, you go, oh, maybe this administration does. They say they care about the First Amendment. Look,
I know a lot about the background of that because I've been watching Crowder for a long time. I know he can be a jerk, but a lot of out of context things have been said about him and done about him. So
they seek to destroy the First Amendment. So why are they using it? Well, of course, the left in America today has openly said that they don't believe you have the right to own
all right, guys.
firearms.
I will be
Why are they
back
using
hopefully
the
within about
Second
15 minutes or
Amendment?
so.
How are they trying to buy
I'm going
votes?
to
Others, even if you are not an ideologue,
do a couple quick
even if you don't
things.
believe that you hold some kind
I got to
of
make sure some guy's getting paid.
you have to
All right,
understand
peace, love you.
why
Thanks
the
for riding with me,
people
keeping me
who
safe,
disagree, the
and
people
I'll
who
see you in a
want to
bit.
tear away everything
Main
you can.
channel,
You have to understand
Indoctrination
why they do.
Live.
You have to